Now, here's your host for AHA Business Radio, Allan Hirsh.
Good evening. Welcome to the show. My guest this evening in the studio with me is Linda Katz-Wilner from a company called Successfully Speaking. And what it sounds like is she teaches public speaking and, as I understand, helping new Americans get rid of or mediate their accents. So, Linda, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Allan.
My first question to every guest is, what motivates you to get up in the morning and go to work?
Okay. What motivates me is to help people who have issues with communication become better communicators. And this ranges, I'm a speech and language pathologist by training, so this ranges from people who have speech, language, voice, and swallowing disorders to people, as I'm a corporate communication specialist, to people who then are looking to advance in their career and work on their public speaking skills. So I work with disorders, and I work with people who just want professional polishing of their speech. And it's motivating for me to get up in the morning and help people and make a difference in their lives and help them connect and advance with their family and their career.
Well, thank you. That's I appreciate that. So tell me a little bit about, you said a little bit there about what you do. So I'm more interested as the show is really for business and about business and by business, is the work you primarily do with business owners or employees, salespeople. What are some of the biggest speech issues or issues you find that they come to you for?
Okay, somebody will move. I recently worked with somebody who was transferred to the Baltimore area. And
so you had to teach them Baltimoreese
or talk in Baltimoreese, right?
Right, hon.
So that's another area of what I do. But his bigger concern was he was moving into a management position, and he wanted to make a good first impression with his team. And he came into me hunched over, poor posture, poor voice quality, nervous about giving presentations because all of a sudden his responsibilities were changing. And so he really needed my help to give him the confidence and to help him have a professional image when he was speaking with everybody. And that's probably the most typical person that I might see.
So what are some of the things you do? I mean, first of all, it sounds like he's embarrassed and uncomfortable within himself. So what are some of the things and tools you can use to help people through those kinds of situations?
First of all, once they're comfortable, I won't turn the video camera on the first 5 minutes of meeting with somebody, but once they're more comfortable and I have a sense of what their concerns are, I would video record them. And the best tool, as you may know, is video. They watch themselves and they see right away what they like, which is usually very little, and what they don't like. And I've branded there's been a lot of research with communication looking at the 3 V's. And my clients love this acronym to help them look at what's important in communication. It's the visual, how you look. It's the vocal, how you sound. And it's the verbal, what you say. And so many professionals think about, what am I going to say at that meeting? They focus mostly on the words. They don't think about the fact that they have to deliver a message in a way that makes them sound confident. So they need to think of how they're using their voice. And more important than that, what are they doing visually? Because we make a first impression, sometimes in 1/10 of a second, anywhere up from 1/10 of a second to 7 seconds. And in that first moment when we're meeting somebody, we've already sized them up and made that first impression. A lot of it is going to be visual, which means their posture, their eye contact, their way that they're sitting or the way that they're standing. What are they doing with their hands, right? What about their facial expression? Do they smile or do they frown? Do they have an intense stare because they're trying to have good eye contact, and now I'm feeling very uncomfortable as the listener? So we look at all of these visuals. How do they hold their head? Is their chin up, which makes them look more defiant and maybe above everybody else that they're speaking to? Or do they have their chin down and then they sound more demure and less confident? So do they tilt their head to the side? If it's tilted to the side, does the person look more youthful and less powerful?
So I've actually know someone who does some of this, the visual approaches, and I don't know how much you're into that science, and I don't remember a third of what but the way you hold your hands, the way you hold your arms, the way you put them, the way, as you said, moving your head. So you're then what are some of the techniques and visual clues, and what will they mean to an audience when you really, because most public speakers have no idea what they are.
Okay, another example is I worked with somebody who had a leadership position, and it was a female, and she was petite, and she looked very youthful, and she said, I really want to look powerful and confident. I'm now leading an organization. And she came into my office, and she sat in the chair with her hands held together and her legs crossed and her shoulders forward, and she took up as little space as possible. And this is common with women and also with different cultures. You might see this even with men. And one of the things we focused on was take up some space. Put your arms on the arms of the chair or put it on the table. Lean forward and make yourself look like you have more power. Men tend to do this more than women
We'll
do.
talk a little bit more about that, but I just want to remind the listening audience that I'm Allan Hirsh of Allan Hirsh Advisors, and I'm talking to Linda Katz-Wilner of Successfully Speaking. If you have any questions of Linda or myself, please give us a call at 410-481-1300. So, again, visually, this she made herself even smaller, is what you're saying, than she was.
And she was American born. I see this a lot with a lot of my Asian clients, where I might go to the company and they're saying she's in a leadership position and she's sitting in the corner of the room with her legs crossed and her arms together. And just by changing the posture, we're more expansive. And when we're more expansive, we look more powerful. And she said it was amazing when she did that. That made a huge difference. I also did this with a high school senior who was doing college interviews, and he came to my office with his hands hidden under the desk. And I said, let me see your hands. You can look at a lot of research where they say the hands mean this or the arms crossed means that you're closed off. It may even mean that you're cold. So it's not necessarily that's what it means. I worked with a group of attorneys, female attorneys, and they said when I was going there for the workshop, help us figure out what to do. Our boardroom is extremely cold, and we're all crossing our arms. And we know that that's sending a message that we're closed off. And so what do you think my answer was?
Change the thermostat.
Change the thermostat, and if you can't, wear a sweater. Just dress warmly. But the thing is, it may not mean you're closed off, but somebody else may walk in there and look at you and say, boy, that person really isn't open. So we have to be mindful of what we're doing with our body postures. And it may not be wrong, but we need to think about what we're doing.
So what are some of the other things? I mean, a situation where you talk about this woman or a man or someone who makes them look smaller, but there are other visual clues that I would think are out there with the way people flare their arms or...
Oh, yes. The hands, the flying hands.
Yes, I probably do that when I speak.
And some people say it's my culture. I just use my hands a lot. And I say there's nothing wrong with hands, but there's something wrong with these flying fingers when your hands are all apart because it looks so chaotic. And I tell some people, think of your hands as sewn together. We don't want to make it look awkward, but keep your fingers together. Obama does this. If you watch him speak, when he uses his hands, the fingers stay together. Other politicians have their hands very chaotic, and it makes you feel different about a person who communicates that way. So very often, and when I do my public speaking classes, we work on that. Keep those fingers together instead of flailing them, and then you can still move your hands a lot, but it doesn't look as chaotic.
That's interesting. And then in sitting in rooms, I've been told, like you said, you close your arms, you fold your shoulders up, which I'm doing in the studio, and you look less receptive. But there are, again, on these visual clues where people look like they're friendly. And my favorite is, and you mentioned it, I think earlier, is a smile. Reminds me of there's a business that I've tried to do business with, haven't succeeded yet, up in Hunt Valley, whose receptionist, when you walk in, I think her name was Barbara, but her title is not receptionist, it's Director of First Impressions.
Oh, excellent. That's great.
Because they believe that, and it's absolutely right, and it's also on the radio or the telephone, if people are smiling and enjoying what you're doing, you can hear it even though you don't see them.
Absolutely. I was coaching somebody once. I do some coaching online with telephones or go to meeting with web cameras. And one of my clients, who was an attorney, was practicing a presentation to me. And I said to her, smile. And she said, how do you know that I'm not smiling? We're just on the telephone. I said, you hear it in the voice. So it is important to smile. It perks you up. Now, some people say, well, I do business from home. It's a home-based business. I'm not dressed up. And I'm calling these CEOs, and I feel very self-conscious that I just don't feel like I have the energy.
So get dressed.
Either get dressed or put a picture up there of an advertisement of a CEO and look at that person. Because when we are talking, we're looking at empty space.
Mm-hmm.
We need to imagine who we're speaking to and smile, gesture, do whatever it is to be natural. And then you're going to hear that in your voice.
Well, for me, because I do work out of my home, and when I get up every day, I do my normal routine, sometimes eat breakfast first, but when I sit at my desk, I'm always dressed, ready for business.
Mm-hmm. You have to have the mindset.
Because I want to have that mindset, and I do it every morning when I'm working, when I'm not out for an early breakfast or an early meeting with a client or prospect. I am always ready to do business and to be fair and talk to people as if I'm working, because that's what I'm doing.
That is what you're doing, and it comes through.
And puts you in a frame of mind. Need to take our first break. As we go to the break, we have the traffic update, and when we come back, I'll continue the conversation with Linda Katz-Wilner of Successfully Speaking, and later in the show, I have the AHA Business Trivia Contest. I'm Allan Hirsh of Allan Hirsh Advisors, and this is AHA Business Radio on CBS Sports Radio 1300 AM.